The unexpected hero. The neon-lit streets of Nexus Station hummed with the constant buzz of alien languages and the whir of passing hovercrafts. In a dimly lit corner of the notorious Bad Luck Bar sat Jack Cooper, ex-military, current mercenary, and perpetual thorn in the side of the galaxy's criminal underworld. Jack nursed a glass of Centaurian whiskey, its iridescent liquid catching the light as he scanned the crowded bar. His cybernetic eye, a souvenir from a job gone wrong on Titan, zoomed in on faces, searching for potential threats or lucrative opportunities. A hooded figure slid into the seat across from him, movements fluid and careful. Jack's hand instinctively moved to the pulse pistol at his hip. "Easy, human," a soft, melodic voice said. "I come seeking help, not conflict." The figure pulled back its hood, revealing the luminescent, scaled skin of a Zarquin, an alien race known for their isolationist policies and advanced biotechnology. This one was female, her crest of iridescent feathers marking her as nobility. "I am Elvira, third princess of the Zarquin Imperium," she said, her multifaceted eyes fixed on Jack. "And I need your help, Jack Cooper." Jack leaned back, a smirk playing on his scared face. "I'm flattered, Your Highness, but I don't do politics. Bad for business." Elvira leaned forward, her voice dropping to a whisper. "This isn't about politics. It's about saving my sister's life." That caught Jack's attention. "I'm listening. My younger sister, Niravash, has been kidnapped by the Krovak clan, a rival faction within our empire. They plan to use her in a ritual sacrifice to legitimize their claim to the throne." Jack whistled low. "Family drama on a galactic scale. Still doesn't explain why you're coming to a human. Don't you have your own elite forces for this kind of thing?" Elvira's feathers rippled, a sign of distress. "The Krovak have supporters throughout our military and government. I can't trust our own people. But you, Jack Cooper, your reputation precedes you. A human who's bested Cronin assassins, outsmarted Volcran crime lords, and even survived the obsidian maze of Altair 7. You've done your homework," Jack said, impressed despite himself. "But why would a Zarquin royal trust a human? Your kind isn't exactly known for their fondness of us primitive apes." Elvira's eyes flashed. "Desperate times call for desperate measures, Mr. Cooper. Humans may be viewed as unrefined by many in the galaxy, but your species has a knack for achieving the impossible. Right now, I need impossible." Jack downed the rest of his whiskey, considering a rescue mission on a hostile alien world against an entire clan of advanced beings who saw humans as little more than clever animals. It was suicide. It was exactly the kind of job he lived for. "All right, Princess," he said, a dangerous grin spreading across his face. "I'm in, but my services don't come cheap." Elvira placed a small crystalline device on the table. It projected a hologram of a dazzling array of gemstones and precious metals. "This is merely a down payment. Complete the mission, and you'll have enough wealth to buy your own planet." Jack whistled again. "Now you're speaking my language. But I'll need more than credits to pull this off. I want unrestricted access to Zarquin tech for the duration of the mission." Elvira hesitated, then nodded. "Agreed. But know this, human. If you betray us, there is nowhere in this galaxy you can hide from Zarquin justice." Jack's cybernetic eye whirred as it focused on the princess. "Sweetheart, if I wanted to sell you out, we wouldn't be having this conversation. Now, tell me everything you know about where they're keeping your sister." For the next hour, Elvira briefed Jack on the situation. The Krovak clan had taken Niravash to their stronghold on Zarquin Prime, a fortress monastery carved into the side of a mountain. The ritual was set to take place in 3 standard days, coinciding with the alignment of Zarquin's 3 moons, a time of great spiritual significance for their people. As Elvira spoke, Jack's mind raced, formulating plans and discarding them just as quickly. This wasn't just a simple snatch and grab. He was walking into an alien hornet's nest, with tech he'd never used before, against an enemy that saw him as less than sentient. But then again, being underestimated had always been Jack's greatest weapon. "I'll need a way onto the planet that won't trigger any alarms," Jack said, interrupting Elvira's description of Krovac defenses. The princess nodded. "I can provide you with a stealth shuttle, equipped with our latest cloaking technology. It will get you past our orbital defenses." "Good. And once on planet side, I have a contact in the capital city of Zarkora. They can provide you with local intelligence and any additional resources you might need." Jack stood, stretching his tall, muscular frame. Several aliens at nearby tables shrank back, wary of the imposing human. "All right, princess. You've got yourself a deal. But remember, I do this my way. No interference, no backseat driving. You hired me because I can do what your people can't. So let me do it." Elvira rose as well, her head barely reaching Jack's chest. "Understood, Mr. Cooper. May the cosmic harmonies guide your path." As the princess glided out of the bar, Jack couldn't help but grin. He was about to dive headfirst into a mess of alien politics, advanced technology, and good old-fashioned violence. It was going to be one hell of a ride. Little did Jack know, as he began preparations for the mission, that this job would not only change his life, but the fate of the entire galaxy. The stage was set for a clash between human ingenuity and alien power, with the life of an innocent girl hanging in the balance. The legend of Jack Cooper, the human who dared to challenge an alien empire, was about to begin. Into the heart of darkness. The stealth shuttle cut through Zarquin Prime's atmosphere like a ghost, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to the planet's formidable defense systems. Inside, Jack Cooper sat at the controls, his cybernetic eye interfacing directly with the ship's systems. "Well, I'll be damned," he muttered, impressed despite himself. The lizard princess wasn't kidding about this tech. As the shuttle descended towards the sprawling capital city of Zarkora, Jack marveled at the alien landscape. Crystalline spires stretched towards the sky, their surfaces shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. Between them, hovering platforms carried Zarquin citizens about their business, their scaled bodies glistening in the light of the setting sun. Jack landed the shuttle in a secluded area on the outskirts of the city, activating its camouflage systems to blend in with the surrounding rock formations. He double-checked his gear, pulse pistol, multi-tool, and a suite of Zarquin gadgets he was still getting the hang of. "All right, Cooper," he said to himself, "time to play nice with the locals." Making his way into the city, Jack kept to the shadows, his stealth suit adapting to match his surroundings. He couldn't help but feel a twinge of awe at the technological marvels around him. The Zarquin might view humans as primitive, but their achievements were undeniably impressive. Jack's musings were interrupted by a soft chime from one of his Zarquin devices. It was a message from Elvira's contact, directing him to a nearby alleyway. As he approached, a section of the wall shimmered and disappeared, revealing a hidden doorway. "Neat trick," Jack muttered, stepping through. Inside, he found himself in a dimly lit room filled with holographic displays and strange, pulsating machinery. A figure stood with its back to him, hunched over a console. "You must be the human," a gravelly voice said. The figure turned, revealing a Zarquin male with battle-scarred scales and a cybernetic arm. "I am Kazanar, former general of the Imperial Guard, now. Well, let's just say I'm a concerned citizen." Jack nodded, his cybernetic eye scanning Kazanar for any signs of deception. "Jack Cooper. Elvira said you could help me infiltrate the Krovac stronghold." Kazanar's multifaceted eyes narrowed. "Elvira is knave. This goes far beyond a simple kidnapping, human. The Krovac's rise to power. It's unnatural. They've acquired technology and resources that should be beyond their reach." "What are you saying?" Jack asked, his instincts on high alert. "I'm saying," Kazanar replied, his voice dropping to a whisper, "that I believe the Krovac have made an alliance with an outside force, one that seeks to destabilize not just the Zarquin Imperium, but the entire galactic balance of power. Jack's mind raced. If Kazanar was right, this mission had just become a lot more complicated. Do you have any proof? The former general gestured to one of the holographic displays. See for yourself. Jack approached the display, his cybernetic eye interfacing with the alien technology. What he saw made his blood run cold. Schematics for weapons of unimaginable power. Troop movements that made no strategic sense unless viewed on a galactic scale, and communications logs with an unknown entity referred to only as the benefactor. Well, shit, Jack muttered. Looks like I've stepped into something a lot bigger than a family squabble. Kazanar nodded grimly. The ritual sacrifice of Miravash isn't just about legitimizing the Krovaks' claim to the throne. It's a signal to their mysterious allies, a demonstration of their commitment to whatever dark bargain they've struck. Jack's mind was already formulating plans, discarding them just as quickly. All right, so rescuing the princess is now Plan B. Plan A is finding out who this benefactor is and what they're really after. A bold plan, human, Kazanar said, a note of respect in his voice. But how do you intend to infiltrate the Krovak stronghold? It's one of the most heavily fortified locations on the planet. Jack grinned, a dangerous glint in his eye. The same way I always do, General. With a mix of high-tech, he patted the Zarquin devices at his belt, and good old-fashioned human ingenuity. For the next few hours, Jack and Kazanar pored over maps and security protocols, formulating a plan that was equal parts brilliant and suicidal. As the twin moons of Zarquin Prime rose in the sky, Jack prepared to set out on what might be his most dangerous mission yet. Remember, human, Kazanar said as Jack made final adjustments to his gear, the fate of more than just one princess rests on your shoulders now. The entire galaxy may hang in the balance. Jack nodded, his face set in grim determination. No pressure, right? Don't worry, General. Humans have a saying. The greater the odds, the sweeter the victory. As he stepped out into the alien night, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into something far bigger than he'd bargained for. But then again, that's what made life interesting. Little did he know, as he made his way towards the imposing silhouette of the Krovak stronghold, that his actions in the coming hours would spark a chain of events that would reshape the very fabric of galactic society. The legend of Jack Cooper, the human who dared to challenge not just an alien empire, but the shadowy forces manipulating it from afar, was about to enter its most crucial chapter. Unlikely allies. The Krovak stronghold loomed before Jack, a jagged obsidian monolith jutting from the side of Mount Zarash. Bioluminescent patterns pulsed along its surface, a hypnotic display that masked its true nature as a fortress of unimaginable technological sophistication. Jack crouched in the shadows of a nearby ridge, his cybernetic eyes zooming in on the fortress's defenses. Well, princess, he muttered, your family certainly doesn't do things by halves. As he studied the stronghold's layout, a soft rustle behind him made Jack whirl around, pulse pistol at the ready. He found himself face to face with a young Zarquin female, her scales a pale silver that seemed to shimmer in the moonlight. You're the human, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm Liravesh, Niravash's handmaiden. Kazanar sent me to assist you. Jack lowered his weapon, but kept his guard up. No offense, kid, but I work alone. This isn't a job for amateurs. Liravesh's eyes flashed with indignation. I may be young by your standards, human, but I've been trained in the arts of stealth and combat since I could walk. More importantly, I know the inner workings of the stronghold. You need me. Jack considered for a moment, then nodded grudgingly. All right, you're in. But you follow my lead, got it? The young Zarquin nodded, a determined set to her jaw. Together, they made their way down the ridge, using the natural terrain for cover. As they approached the base of the stronghold, Jack activated one of his Zarquin devices. A shimmering field enveloped them both, bending light around their bodies. Optical camouflage, Jack explained in a low voice, should get us past the outer perimeter. Lyravesh looked impressed despite herself. "You're more resourceful than I expected, human." They slipped past the first line of guards, their movements silent and precise. Jack's trained eye noted weak points in the defenses, places where the Krovak's arrogance had left them vulnerable. As they reached a side entrance, Lyravesh placed her hand on a seemingly blank section of wall. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a bioscanner. "It's keyed to Krovak genetic signatures," she whispered. "But I have a workaround." From a pouch at her waist, she produced a small vial of luminescent liquid. She carefully applied it to her hand, then pressed it against the scanner. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft hiss, the door slid open. "Impressive," Jack said, genuine admiration in his voice. "What is that stuff?" "A genetically engineered biomaterial," Lyravesh explained as they slipped inside. "It can mimic Krovak DNA signatures for short periods." They found themselves in a dimly lit corridor, the walls pulsing with the same hypnotic patterns as the exterior. Jack's cybernetic eye switched to infrared, scanning for heat signatures. "Two guards approaching from the left," he whispered. "We need to find a place to hide." Lyravesh pointed to a nearby vent. "In there. It leads to the central atrium." They squeezed into the narrow shaft just as the guards rounded the corner. Jack held his breath, acutely aware of how vulnerable they were. But the guards passed by without noticing anything amiss. As they crawled through the ventilation system, Jack's mind raced. The ease with which they had infiltrated the stronghold so far was making him uneasy. It felt too simple, almost staged. They emerged into a vast, cathedral-like space. The central atrium of the stronghold was a marvel of alien architecture, with spiraling columns reaching towards a domed ceiling that seemed to reflect the night sky above. But it was what lay at the center of the room that caught Jack's attention. A massive device, pulsing with an otherworldly energy, dominated the space. It looked like nothing Jack had ever seen before, a fusion of Zarquin biotechnology and something else. "What the hell is that?" Jack whispered. Lyravesh's eyes were wide with fear. I don't know. It wasn't here when I last visited the stronghold. This technology, it's not Zarquin." As they watched, a group of Krovak scientists entered the atrium, led by a tall, imposing figure that Jack recognized from the briefing files as Drazkor, the Krovak clan leader. "The device is nearly ready," one of the scientists reported. "When the three moons align, we will be able to open the portal." Drazkor nodded, a cruel smile on his face. "Excellent. Our benefactors will be pleased. Soon, the Zarquin Imperium will fall, and a new era will begin." Jack and Lyravesh exchanged alarmed glances. This was far worse than they had imagined. Whatever the Krovak were planning, it threatened not just the Zarquin, but potentially the entire galaxy. "We need to find Lyravesh and get out of here," Jack whispered. "Fast." Lyravesh nodded, her face set with determination. "The ritual chambers are below. We can use the maintenance shafts to reach them undetected." As they prepared to move, Jack couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap. But with the fate of a princess, and possibly the galaxy, hanging in the balance, they had no choice but to press on. Little did they know that their unlikely partnership, a jaded human mercenary and a young Zarquin handmaiden, was about to be tested in ways neither could have imagined. The true nature of the threat they faced was about to be revealed, and with it, the ultimate test of humanity's ingenuity and determination. The Great Escape. The maintenance shaft was a claustrophobic nightmare, barely wide enough for Jack to squeeze through. Lyravesh moved ahead with fluid grace, her Zarquin physiology perfectly adapted to the tight space. "How much further?" Jack grunted, his cybernetic eyes struggling to map their surroundings through the dense alien alloys. "We're almost there," Lyravesh whispered back. "The ritual chambers should be just ahead." As they emerged from the shaft into a dimly lit corridor, a piercing scream echoed through the air. Jack's blood ran cold. He'd heard screams like that before, on battlefields across the galaxy. It was the sound of unimaginable pain. Niravesh. Liravesh gasped, her scales paling in distress. Jack grabbed her arm before she could rush forward. "Wait," he hissed. "We need to be smart about this." Activating his stealth suit, Jack crept towards the source of the screams. The corridor opened into a vast chamber, its walls lined with pulsating organic technology. In the center, strapped to a cruel-looking device, was Princess Niravesh. The young Zarquin princess was barely conscious, her once vibrant scales now dull and lifeless. Around her, Krovac scientists worked feverishly, monitoring readouts on bioorganic displays. "The subject's life force is weakening," one of the scientists reported. "We need to accelerate the process if we're to have enough energy for the portal." Jack's mind raced. Portal. Life force. This was far beyond a simple power grab. The Krovac were meddling with forces they couldn't possibly understand. He retreated back to Liravesh, quickly outlining what he'd seen. The young handmaiden's eyes blazed with fury and determination. "We need a distraction," Jack said, formulating a plan. "Something big enough to draw their attention, but not so big that they lock down the entire facility." Liravesh nodded, reaching into a pouch at her waist. She produced a small, pulsating orb. "This is a sonic disruptor," she explained. "It'll overload their sensory systems and cause temporary chaos." Jack grinned. "Perfect. On my signal, activate it, and get to Niravesh. I'll cover you and deal with any guards." They moved into position, tension crackling in the air. Jack took a deep breath, centering himself. This was the moment where everything could go horribly wrong, or spectacularly right. "Now," he barked. Liravesh activated the disruptor and flung it into the chamber. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Krovac scientists clutched their heads in agony, their sensitive hearing overwhelmed by the sonic assault. Jack burst into action, his pulse pistol barking as he took down the guards rushing to respond. Liravesh darted towards Niravesh, her fingers flying over the alien controls to release the princess. "We've got incoming," Jack shouted, his cybernetic eye picking up multiple heat signatures converging on their position. "We need to move." Liravesh half-carried, half-dragged Niravesh towards the exit. Jack provided covering fire, his aim precise and deadly. But for every Krovac guard he dropped, two more seemed to take their place. They raced through the winding corridors of the stronghold, alarms blaring all around them. Jack's mind worked overtime, recalling the layout they'd studied earlier and calculating the best escape route. "This way," he shouted, leading them down a side passage. "There's a hangar bay not far from here. If we can secure a ship." His words were cut off as a massive explosion rocked the facility. The floor beneath their feet buckled, sending them sprawling. As Jack struggled to his feet, he saw a familiar figure stride through the smoke and debris. It was Drazkor, the Krovac clan leader, his eyes blazing with fury. "You dare interfere with forces beyond your comprehension, human." Drazkor snarled, raising a weapon that crackled with eldritch energy. Jack dove for cover as a bolt of searing energy scorched the air where he'd been standing. He returned fire, but his pulse pistol seemed woefully inadequate against Drazkor's advanced weaponry. "Liravesh," he shouted, "get Niravesh to the hangar. I'll hold him off." The young handmaiden hesitated for a moment, torn between duty and loyalty. Then, with a nod of determination, she hefted Niravesh onto her shoulders and sprinted down the corridor. Jack emerged from cover, drawing Drazkor's fire. He knew he was outmatched, but if he could buy enough time for the others to escape. As he dodged another energy blast, Jack's cybernetic eye picked up a weak point in the corridor's structure. An idea formed. Desperate, crazy, but just maybe crazy enough to work. He aimed carefully, pouring fire into the structural weakness. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a groaning screech of tortured metal, the ceiling began to collapse. Drazkor looked up in shock as tons of debris came crashing down. Jack didn't wait to see if the Krovac leaders survived. He turned and ran, his lungs burning as he sprinted towards the hangar bay. He burst through the doors to find Liravesh at the controls of a sleek Zarquin shuttle, its engines already humming with power. Niravash lay unconscious in the back, her breathing shallow but steady. "Let's go," Jack shouted, leaping aboard as laser fire erupted around them. The shuttle rocketed out of the hangar bay, Liravesh's piloting skills put to the ultimate test as they weaved through a barrage of anti-aircraft fire. Jack manned the defensive systems, his cybernetic eye interfacing directly with the alien technology to return fire. As they broke atmosphere, Jack allowed himself a moment of hope. They'd done it. Against all odds, they'd rescued the princess and escaped the Krovac stronghold. But as the stars of deep space came into view, Jack's relief was short-lived. For there, looming in the darkness, was a sight that made his blood run cold. A massive ship of unknown design, its hull crackling with the same eldritch energy as Drazkor's weapon. "Oh, hell," Jack muttered. "I've got a bad feeling about this." The true scale of the threat they faced was about to be revealed, and with it, the greatest challenge of Jack Cooper's life. The fate of not just the Zarquin, but the entire galaxy now hung in the balance. Revelations and betrayals. The alien vessel loomed before them, a behemoth of impossible geometry and pulsating energy. Jack's cybernetic eye struggled to make sense of its form, as if the ship existed partially in dimensions beyond human comprehension. "What in the name of all that's holy is that thing?" Jack breathed, his usual bravado momentarily shaken. Liravesh's voice trembled as she responded. I've never seen anything like it. It's not Zarquin, not Krovac, not anything I recognize." A cold, cruel laugh echoed through the shuttle's communication system. "Of course you don't recognize it. Little ones, it is beyond your primitive understanding." Jack's blood ran cold. He knew that voice. "Drazkor," he growled, "I should have known you'd be too stubborn to die." The Krovac leader's face appeared on the shuttle's view screen, his scales gleaming with an unnatural light. "Did you really think your pitiful escape attempt would succeed? You've played right into our hands." Before Jack could respond, the shuttle shuddered violently. A beam of crackling energy had enveloped them, pulling them inexorably towards the alien vessel. "Liravesh, can you break us free?" Jack shouted, his hands flying over the controls. The young Zarquin's fingers danced across the bioorganic interface, but to no avail. "It's no use," she cried. "Their technology is too advanced." As they were drawn into a cavernous docking bay, Jack's mind raced. This was bad, worse than bad. They were outgunned, outmanned, and now trapped aboard an alien vessel of unimaginable power. The moment the shuttle touched down, the hatch was wrenched open. Jack raised his pulse pistol, ready to go down fighting, but froze at the sight that greeted him. Towering, shadowy figures stood before them, their forms seeming to shift and waver like smoke. Jack's cybernetic eye couldn't focus on them properly, as if they existed partially out of phase with reality. "Welcome, Jack Cooper." A voice resonated in his mind, bypassing his ears entirely. "We've been expecting you." Jack felt a pressure building in his head, an alien presence probing at the edges of his consciousness. He gritted his teeth, fighting against the intrusion. "Who? What are you?" he managed to growl. One of the figures stepped forward, its form coalescing into a vaguely humanoid shape. "We are the Shadrim, travelers from beyond the veil of your reality. And you, Jack Cooper, are the key to our ascension." Beside him, Jack heard Liravesh gasp in pain. He turned to see her clutching her head, her scales paling rapidly. Niravash, still unconscious, began to convulse. "Stop it," Jack shouted. "Whatever you're doing to them, stop it now." The Shadrim's voice echoed in his mind again, tinged with amusement. "Your concern for these lesser beings is quaint, but unnecessary. They are merely conduits, vessels for the energy we require. With a gesture from the lead Shadrim, Liravesh and Niravash were engulfed in shimmering fields of energy and lifted off the ground. They floated away, disappearing into the depths of the ship. "What are you going to do with them?" Jack demanded, his pulse pistol raised but uselessly small against these cosmic horrors. "The same thing we will do with all sentient life in this galaxy," the Shadrim responded. "Harvest their life force to fuel our transition into your reality." The truth hit Jack like a physical blow. The Krovac, the mysterious benefactors, the portal device, it had all been part of a plan so vast and terrible that he could barely comprehend it. "You've been manipulating events across the galaxy," he said, the pieces falling into place. "The conflicts, the technological advancements, it was all to prepare for your invasion." The Shadrim's form rippled, a gesture that might have been a nod. "Precisely. And you, Jack Cooper, with your unique blend of human ingenuity and cybernetic enhancement, are the final piece we need." Before Jack could react, tendrils of dark energy lashed out, wrapping around his limbs and lifting him off the ground. He struggled, but it was like fighting against the vacuum of space itself. As he was carried deeper into the ship, Jack saw horrors beyond imagination. Vast chambers filled with beings from across the galaxy, their life force being slowly drained to power the Shadrim's terrible machines. Among them, he spotted familiar faces: Kaznar, Elvira, even Drazkor himself, all reduced to withering husks. "You betrayed your own people," Jack spat at Drazkor as he passed. The once proud Krovac leader turned empty eyes towards him. "We had no choice," he whispered. "Their power, it's absolute." Jack was brought to a central chamber, dominated by a swirling vortex of energy. The air crackled with power, making his cybernetic implants spark and malfunction. "Behold," the Shadrim's voice resonated in his mind, "the gateway to our dimension. And you, Jack Cooper, shall be the key that opens it fully." As Jack was suspended over the vortex, its energy beginning to pull at him, he realized the true scale of the threat. This wasn't just about the Zarquin, or even the galaxy. The fate of all reality hung in the balance. But as the energy began to tear at him, a thought crystallized in Jack's mind. The Shadrim had made one crucial mistake. They had underestimated the human spirit. And if there was one thing Jack Cooper knew how to do, it was to defy the impossible. With every ounce of his will, Jack focused on his cybernetic implants. If he could just find a way to interface with the Shadrim's technology, to turn their own power against them. As darkness began to close in around him, Jack Cooper prepared for one final desperate gambit. The fate of the universe rested on the shoulders of one battered, stubborn human, and he was damned if he was going to let it fall. Humanity's stand. The void pulled at Jack, threatening to tear him apart atom by atom. But in that moment of ultimate peril, something extraordinary happened. His cybernetic implants, pushed beyond their limits, began to resonate with the alien energies surrounding him. Suddenly, Jack could see the underlying structure of the Shadrim's technology, a complex web of interdimensional mathematics and quantum entanglement. And with that understanding came power. With a thought, Jack reversed the energy flow. Instead of being pulled apart, he began to draw the power into himself. The Shadrim recoiled, their shadowy forms flickering with what might have been fear. "Impossible," the alien voice thundered in Jack's mind. "No primitive being could comprehend our technology, let alone control it." Jack managed a pained grin. "That's your problem, you overdimensional squid. You underestimated humanity. We specialize in the impossible." As the energy surged through him, Jack felt his consciousness expanding. He could see the entire ship, the captive aliens, the very fabric of space-time itself. And he saw the flaw in the Shadrim's plan. They needed a bridge between dimensions, a focal point to channel their invasion. And they had chosen Jack to be that bridge, believing his cybernetic enhancements made him the perfect conduit. But they hadn't counted on the human factor, the sheer, stubborn will to survive that had driven humanity to the stars. Jack focused all his newfound power on the interdimensional rift, not to open it wider, but to slam it shut. The ship shuddered, alarms blaring in frequencies that hurt even Jack's enhanced senses. "Stop!" The Shadrim's voice was tinged with panic now. "You'll destroy us all." "Better that than letting you harvest the galaxy," Jack growled through gritted teeth. He could feel the drain on his body, the cybernetics burning out one by one. But he held on, pouring every ounce of his being into closing the rift. Suddenly, he felt other presences joining him. Lyravesh, her young mind blazing with determination. Niravash, weakened but unbowed. And others, every captive on the ship, their combined will amplifying Jack's efforts. With a sound like reality itself tearing, the rift began to close. The Shahadrim howled, their shadowy forms drawn back into the collapsing portal. "This isn't over, human," the alien voice raged. "We will return." Yeah, Jack muttered. "I'll be waiting." With a final titanic effort, Jack slammed the dimensional doors shut. The backlash of energy sent him flying, consciousness fleeing as his body finally gave out. He awoke to the soft beeping of medical equipment and the concerned face of Lyravesh looking down at him. "You're awake," she exclaimed, relief evident in her voice. "We thought we'd lost you." Jack tried to sit up, wincing at the pain that shot through his body. "What happened?" "The Shadrim." "Gone," Lyravesh said. "You closed their portal and trapped them in their own dimension." The ship's systems were linked to the portal. When it closed, everything shut down. Jack looked around, realizing he was in a Zarquin medical bay. "How long was I out?" 3 standard weeks, a new voice said. Jack turned to see Princess Niravash entering the room, looking fully recovered. "You saved us all, Jack Cooper. The Zarquin Empire, no, the entire galaxy, owes you a debt we can never repay." Jack managed a weak smile. "Just doing my job, Your Highness, though I think I might need to renegotiate my fee." Niravash laughed, a sound of pure joy and relief. "I think that can be arranged. But more than that, you've opened our eyes. The Zarquin have long thought ourselves superior, but you've shown us the true strength of humanity." As Jack recovered, he learned of the changes sweeping the galaxy. The Zarquin Empire had opened diplomatic relations with Earth, sharing technology and knowledge. The threat of the Shadrim had united species that had long been at odds. And at the center of it all was Jack Cooper, the human who had stood against cosmic horrors and emerged victorious. As he stood on the balcony of the Imperial Palace, looking out over the glittering spires of Zarkora, Jack felt a sense of pride he'd never known before. He had saved not just a princess, not just a planet, but an entire galaxy. Lyravesh joined him, her scales shimmering in the alien sunlight. "What will you do now, Jack?" she asked. Jack looked up at the stars, thinking of the vast, unknown universe beyond. The Shadrim were gone, but who knew what other threats lurked in the cosmic darkness? "You know," he said with a grin, "I hear the galaxy might need a defender or two. Think you're up for some adventure?" Lyravesh's eyes gleamed with excitement. "Always."